So I had started out this series earlier talking about how um, my crisis came when I was in the Air Force. This was 20 years ago. I was in the Air Force and I was told that I had gotten someone pregnant. And being the coward that I was back then, I denied in total selfishness, not proud of that by any measure. But I realized that within me, I just wasn't a man. There wasn't any substance to me. There wasn't anything that I could fall back on, that I could be like, okay, what can I lean on in this? And I realized that I needed to get some real answers. And it was in really determining that I needed answers that I realized I also needed to be willing to listen to those answers. I needed to be willing to listen to those answers. What ended up happening is that I volunteered to deploy to Kuwait, to an air base called Ali Al Salim Air Base, Kuwait, and it's an air base, an Air Force base that is used also as a primary staging ground for a lot of the Army when they're going through, and they would have their not their caravans. I can't think of it right now, but they're caravans, but they're convoys. There we go, the convoys that were going into Iraq. These guys that were real soldiers that were getting ready up to go into real combat. But it was a desert. It was in the summer. It was hot. It was very isolated. And it's exactly what I needed. And that's a key point to this, is that oftentimes what we need and we misinterpret is when we are brought into a season or a situation that actually promotes our isolation. It actually promotes our pulling out of our circumstances and our constant innovation of things. And it helps us to get a clarification of where we really are. It helps us to get a base point of what you're really feeling versus how you're just reacting to everything, and so you think that your reactions are you. No, we need to know where we are. We need to gain orientation. We need to get a sense of where we are at. Just where are we at? Because that's the biggest thing. Where are we at? You know, where are we at? Where are we, versus telling ourselves that we're not afraid, but we're just angry. For me, I was angry, but I didn't know why I was angry. I know now. A lot of fear, fear that I didn't have what it takes. Fear that I was just getting life wrong. I wanted to be right. When I say right, I don't mean justified. I just mean I wanted to know I was on the right path. I was on the right trail, even if that meant missteps, that I was doing right. But it didn't feel right. And I knew that all my efforts were not getting me to where I was hoping I could get to. And that's where this becomes really interesting, because the greatest prayer I ever prayed, and have prayed since, and I say this because the prayer had such truth and realism and sincerity and authenticity, vulnerability, and it had an F-bomb in it. And I just remember reaching a point in Kuwait where I sat on the edge of my bed and I just said, I'm not trying to my life, but I am. It was such an all-encompassing prayer. And that may not sound like a prayer, but it was, because I was just crying out. I'm not trying to fuck up my life, but I am. And it came from so deep that I just said, I'm not trying to get this thing wrong, but I am. I'm not in a place that I'm supposed to be at. And the response was a response that was unlike anything I had ever heard. And it was a response that had kindness, it had strength, it had understanding. It didn't condemn me. It didn't point a finger at me. And it said, I know. It was the voice of a father. It was the voice of a father that was pained by my pain. It was the voice of a father that also had strength. It was the voice of a father that was present, that was there. And I now know that he was always there. It's just me that wasn't there. And he just said, I know. Those two little words affirmed in me an understanding that said, I know. I know your anguish. I know your hurt. I know your pain. I know your struggle. I know your hurt, your anger. I know. And then the next response to me was, and what now? And I kind of just sat there in amazement, because it wasn't that somebody was pointing this finger at me that was saying to get your stuff together. Don't you know you're messing it all up? You're going to mess everything up. You need to get together. No. He said, and what now? It was as if he was inviting me into something. Like I had a say in it. A real say, not just like you have to do this, but it was a real say. And it was like, and what now? And that was the first string. That was the first thing that began to I started to pull on, was this invitation of interactivity. Don't be afraid of questions, but don't be afraid of the response. I had to reach a point of such cataclysmic breakdown that I was finally willing to listen to a real response, to real answers. And I'll be very candid with you. There were many, listen to this. And I don't know. I don't know where you are in your place right now. I don't know where you are in the journey of your own life right now. But what I know is this, is that he's there, and he's real, and he's listening, and he cares. And the first time in my life, what I had experienced was the voice and the tenderness of a father. And it changed my life. 20 years later, I'm sitting here watching geese land in the water, and I'm amazed.